Hello and welcome to another episode of the Business Growth Accelerator. Brandon here, your chief business strategist, coming to you today with a guest that has absolutely blown me away when it comes to what they're doing now in the home services space. I have with me Chuck Staszkiewicz here from the Opus Golds Group. Chuck, welcome to the Business Growth Accelerator.
Thank you. And you did get the name spot on. Not many people can do it, so we're going good now.
Nice. I was a little bit nervous with the last name there. I do have some family members that have very difficult last names, and so I practice with them all the time, just pronouncing it. That way, you can get the lips and the tongue right to do the right enunciations when needed. Right. So Chuck, thanks again for taking the time to speak with me tonight. A little bit of research that I've already done about you and your group. You've been in the home service space and industry for a long time now. You've managed to grow, scale, and exit your company, and are now looking to help people in the similar niche that you've been in grow and scale there. So tell me a little bit about yourself, the background, and how you got started and what you're doing now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as far as like the American dream goes, I feel my story is probably one of those, right? Like I was working in a deli. Plumber came in every day and got coffee, and I started chatting with him and realized, like I'm not going to go very far in a deli, right? And I didn't go to college, barely graduated high school, so I took a pay cut from working at the deli. I think I was making like $17 an hour, and this is going back 25 years ago. And I went down, I took a pay cut to $10 an hour to start my plumbing career. So I've been in the trades for 25 years. I grew up in New Jersey, and I started my career in New Jersey as a plumber. And I did plumbing, drain cleaning, boilers, new construction, service, sales, the whole nine yards. And then about 10 years into it, I decided, hey, I don't want to be in New Jersey anymore. I love to ski. I love to snowboard. And I took a trip out to Utah with a bunch of my friends. And I got off the plane and I said, I'm moving here. I looked at where the airport was, where the ski resorts were, saw the vast amounts of land that were out there, and I said, I'm moving here. All my friends are like, you're crazy, right? Like, why would you do that? You got a good job, like I was forming my own business there. I had a side hustle, as people would call it, but a legitimate side hustle. And I said, no, I don't want to be in New Jersey anymore. So made the decision. 6 months later, sold everything that I could and moved to Utah. And then I worked for a company for 2 years, just wanted to kind of get the lay of the land. And then I started my own company. In my garage, I started with $10,000. I bought a van for $2,000 off of Craigslist, hired a helper, and I immediately went to look for, marketing, because I didn't know anybody here. Jersey, I grew up there. So I knew a lot of people. A lot of my clients for my side business were friends and family and, people from high school and people I knew from growing up there. I knew nobody here. So I said, all right, well, I've only been here for 2 years. And it started out as that. I landed one really good job for one of the ski resorts. And I took a lot of that money and I put it into digital marketing. And at the time, not a lot of people were doing digital marketing. And they were, and it was like, you had to be a huge company to do digital marketing. So I worked with a guy who he was kind of just getting into the digital marketing world himself. And I'll never forget, like I sat at a bagel shop with him because I was running it out of my garage, and we strategized at the bagel shop. And no, the bagels aren't as good as they are in New Jersey and Utah, but we came up, and I said to him, I said, here's where I'm at today. Here's where I want to be in 10 years. Can you help me get there? And he was like, I don't know for sure, but I'm going to sure try. And I'll never forget because he got me to a point, and then he told me, he goes, Chuck, I've got you here. If you want to go to the next level, you need to go to someone else. Let me introduce you to a few people. And he knew. He was like, I'm tapped. Like, I could only bring you this far. So, needless to say, 12 years in business. I started my business in 2011 in Salt Lake, out of my garage. And, I just exited last August 2023. So 12 years in business. We went from zero, my only employee, to 130 employees, about $20 million in revenue. And yeah, it was really a fast and furious journey.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I mean, 12 years to grow, scale, and exit is a pretty quick time, especially in the home service industry when you start off with just one man in a van. And I love the fact that you knew immediately that you needed help to get your business out there. And granted, it's because you didn't have a network, right? You moved to a whole new city, don't really know anybody. But the thing that you did know is that you needed to grow your network as quickly as possible, and you knew you couldn't do it yourself. So that's absolutely amazing. So what were the lessons, though, that you learned along the way while you scaled your plumbing business from the garage to that $20 million in sales?
Well, I can tell you this. That's a great question. There's a lot of lessons. I can tell you probably one of the biggest ones that I had to learn the hard way. And I think a lot of people's eyes were opened in 2020 when COVID hit, right? And it made me take a very, very hard look at where I was at. And before COVID, I was on top of the world, man. I felt like I was untouchable. I was doing $12 million in sales. I didn't know my numbers. I watched the bank account go up and I watched it go down. I was like, oh, I'm doing great. I'm doing $12 million a year, right? Like, a lot of business owners do that. And it's why I'm passionate about what I do now, because after 9 years in business, almost 10 years in business, I finally then became a business owner. And it was something so, the world got smacked with COVID, right? But it was such a blessing. Like, I don't look at COVID as like this bad thing. Like, it literally changed my life. And it opened my eyes. And I remember I said, so I hired my sister in February. The shutdown was in March, right? And I said to her, I immediately got on the phone with her when they were announcing that they were shutting everything down. And we strategized for about 4 hours. But the first thing I said was, we need to hire a coach or a training facility, and we need to triple down on marketing. And that's what we did. And that year, we doubled the business, right? And, it wasn't that same year, we lost money because we didn't understand the business, right? We were going at such a rapid speed. I mean, to hit 12 million in 9 years is rapid, right? And we just didn't understand. So when I had that awakening, I still feel if I had to go back, I would do the same thing over. I would triple down on marketing and hire a mentor. Because I went to 1 3-day training virtual with this mentor group that I joined. And literally, it was like a huge awakening for me. I realized I didn't know anything about business. And here I was, like, I got knocked off my high horse. I was thinking, I'm untouchable. Anything I do, it turns to gold. Like, let's open up another division. Let's do this. The entrepreneurial ADD, as they would call it, right? And it was a huge awakening for me. And it wasn't until that experience and COVID happening that I woke up. And that's why I started doing the consulting after I exited, because I know there's more people feeling that now more than ever, because COVID's still lingering in the background, right? Like, it's not the same as it was before COVID. Things have rapidly changed and people haven't figured out how to do things differently.
Right. Yeah, and I don't think anything's ever really going to go back to it was prior to 2020. Just like things haven't really changed since you know 2001 when 9/11 had happened. Those are like key pivotal points in our history that the world has changed, and those that don't adapt to those changes are definitely going to suffer greatly. So when it comes to the marketing, it's such a broad term. There's a ton of tactics that can be done. Um, when you talk marketing and tripling down, what exactly did you do process wise that allowed you to scale from that 11 to 12 to the 20 million?
Well, that was a lot of it, right? Like I just doubled down on the marketing, and that's why that first year working with the mentor, I lost money because I didn't have the
Hmm.
systems and processes in place. So if you think about it, 2020 we lost money. 22 or 21 we had a small profit, about a 2% profit. 22 we had a 11% profit. That's huge growth when you're trying to turn a ship that big, right? So
Hmm.
I was like most business owners. The phone's not ringing. People are scared. I'm going to hire more employees, so I'll just dump more money into marketing. Well, I wasn't focused on conversions, which I could have saved a lot of money on the marketing if I would have focused on the conversion rates and converted to what was already coming to me better. Right. So that was
Hmm.
one system that I had to learn and figure out. And that's why we had that growth, because working with someone showed me, hey, let's not just pump money into getting the phone to ring. What happens after the phone rings? How does your phone team handle it? Okay, if your phone team's converting well, and I think at the end, I think we had a 78 or 80% conversion rate on the phones. Then how are your guys in the field converting? Once they leave, what's the follow-up process, right? And the client journey through the whole experience. Everybody thinks in the home service world or any business world, it might just be when you're in front of the customer. No, it's the whole experience. From the time they're on the phone or from the time they see your ad till they get on the phone with you,
Hmm.
till the guy comes, when they leave, it's the whole journey. And that was the biggest process that we figured out, right? Was finding that whole journey and then dialing in each one to be converting where it needed to be. So if my guys, I got the phones to convert at 80%, my guys' minimum standards were they had to convert 65% or better, right? And if they
Wow.
weren't, then
Wow.
we went into coaching with them, you know? So and constantly focusing on and redesigning that along the way. It's like before, watching the bank account go up, yeah, it was great. They were converting then, but when it was coming down, they weren't converting. But I didn't know where. I didn't know if it was phones. I didn't know if it was sales. I didn't know if it was the technicians. I didn't know if it was they were leaving estimates and not following up on it. But once I dialed in those processes, everything else started to click. And then we had, a bunch more processes to put in place too.
Right. Right. Yeah, you mentioned a couple key tactics there when it comes to making the sale, and the customer value journey is critical, really in any business. And you're absolutely right. I mean, people worry so much about branding and the wrap of their truck and the look of a website and all that other kind of stuff. Yeah, that stuff's important, but until you can get somebody actually in that funnel and put them through a specific sales process, all of that is you're just burning cash at that point. Um, I see
And burden a
businesses,
lot.
yeah, and
And burden a lot.
I see
You
businesses in my area. Sorry about that, man. Go ahead.
go ahead. I was going to say, someone told me today you could double, and this person means the world to me. Has been a great mentor over the last 4 years for me, and he's flat out said, and he's super certain of this. You can double any business just by doing what you already do better. Simple, right?
Yeah,
You're already
100%.
getting the phone
Answer the
calls,
phone better.
right?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I see it in my area all the time. I'm in a pretty rural area here in central Ohio, and there's these companies buying billboards with zero back end at all. They throw a phone number up there, and that's it. You go to Google them, they are nowhere to be found. Um, and there's other ones that are doing okay at it. They throw the billboard up, they have the website, they've been around in business for years and years and years, and that's pretty much all the marketing that they do is just spread billboard money around. And it probably works for them, but they've just dialed into that one tactic there. But only imagine if they took that same process from that one tactic and then spread it around to digital billboard ads, display, PPC campaign does the follow up, and then you actually have something on the site that actually captures a lead instead of just being a pretty brochure, right?
You know what's funny to me, man? That now that you mentioned that, I just want to get this really quickly in there. I love when a business comes to me and they say, we don't do much marketing. I'm like, oh man, I'm like, let's do this, right? Like you're going to see your sales jump so far once we dabble into this world. Like, let's go. Like, that's exciting to me when businesses aren't doing that much marketing and they're sustaining.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So you exited, but you mentioned you hired your sister before everything kind of went to hell in a handbasket, and then you exited, and now you're still working with your sister and what you're doing now?
Yeah. So it's interesting. My sister comes from a retail corporate background. So she went to college for design and retail, like buying, setting up displays like in windows and stuff like that. Like that was one of her passions when she went to college. So I bought in February of 2020, we bought a fireplace division, and that had showrooms. And I had no idea about showrooms, right? Like I knew how to manage a van. I didn't know anything about showrooms. So I thought it was a great idea to bring in her experience. Her other experience that she had was she worked with Fortune 50 companies, not 500, Fortune 50 companies in an ad agency doing billboards and branding and stuff like that. So that's where we deep dove into the branding side of it. And then, like I said, COVID hit and really opened our eyes to that. But bringing in that experience with her, and she was taking a leap of faith too, right? Like she's no experience in the home service world, like none, zero. And I'll never forget it. We briefly had the conversation, and she was like, "Yeah, let's do it." And I'm like, I didn't expect her to say yes. Right. And then I had to figure out how to pay her, what her position was, all that stuff. Like I had no clue. Right. But she's very good at doing it. And that's another reason why we partnered in what we're doing now. She's very good at coming into a company and figuring out what the pain points are. Like I knew I was doing okay. Like at the end of the year, we had profits. It wasn't a lot, but it was still profitable. I had no idea until the tax season if I was profitable or not. Right? Like till everybody did their finals and all that stuff. I had no clue. But we joined a group, and I brought her up to speed. What she learned from working with somebody very closely, she got, a crash course on the home service industry. And she immediately, took it on and went to work. And like she knows more about it than I do now. And I've been in it for 25 years. She's been in it for 4. Because of the people that we had working alongside of us. Now we decided after the exit, we're like, look, we want to help people. We want to see other success stories like ours. She's really good at what she does. I'm really good at what I do. We're great at working together. And that's another value that we bring. Like there's a lot of small business owners that work with family, and it's not always easy. I had to lay my dad off when COVID hit because he really wasn't doing anything. He was there just bothering everybody, right? So I laid 5 people off, and literally he was one of them. He was the first one to go because I wanted to show my people, if I'm going to lay anyone off, no one is like protected by this just because they're family, so that's why I did that. But Yeah, it's an interesting experience because we were going to call our business Yin and Yang. We decided on the OG group or the Opus and Golds group, but because we are so yin and yang, and that's I'm very much the dreamer and the visionary. She's the implementer and the driver. And when you have those, they're a lot of entrepreneurs are the visionary, right? You go into business and then you get that shiny object syndrome of what's next. Like, oh, let me just add another department. Let me just add another service. Let me just add this. Let me just add that. And it's like you don't really ever dial in one thing. You just keep adding more and more. Well, she was able to take my vision and interpret it and see it all the way through. She was the driver. And I put her in ultimately as my general manager. I brought her in for the retail experience, but ultimately she fit as the general manager overseeing everything after, about 2 months.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you kind of told that story the way you did, because a lot of the people that I've spoken to when it comes to building and growing a business, they can't do it by themselves. Just as you said, there's the thinker and then there's the doer. Behind every good thinker is an excellent operator that actually gets the stuff done, who implements anything. I mean, if you think about larger corporations like Apple, you had Steve Jobs, right? Everybody knew who Steve Jobs was, but he wasn't the guy actually doing anything. It was Woz that did all the programming for the computers, and Steve he was the good salesperson. And you mentioned firing your dad. That's absolutely crazy, especially when you're coming from working with within your family and it's a family business and things like that. And you had to let your your dad go. How did that help you foster a positive culture in your company when you were letting go family members?
Because for me, they realized it wasn't about I think a lot of people might have saved their family, right? And made sure that they had a job. He was retired and, he worked part-time with us. But it showed by example. It was like, look, this wasn't a needed position. I'm not just going to keep him on because he was family, right? And my brother-in-law worked for me. Both my brother-in-laws worked for me. My sister-in-law worked for me. My mom worked for me. So it showed everybody. And I wasn't thinking this, but looking back on it now, it did show everybody. And the positions that I eliminated were duplicate positions. We were training them to scale because we were growing very fast, right? I didn't need 2 in-house mechanics. I had one great in-house mechanic who was training the next guy, right? So I eliminated one of those. But my goal, the reason I brought that second mechanic in was as the fleet was growing at such a rapid pace, I would have needed him in 2 or 3 more months. So I never hired when I needed. I hired before I needed and trained that position. So yeah, it was one of the hardest things that I ever had to do. I mean, I was in business for 12 years and that was the only 5 people I ever laid off. And it was duplicate positions. And out of all of them, I found them all jobs, except for my dad. I ended up hiring him back. But I found them all jobs. And then 2 of them actually ended up coming back once things, kind of worked itself out in a few months. Anyways, they came back.
Awesome. So now that you're in the coaching consulting space, what do you see the vision of the Opus and Gold Group? And you mentioned the name a little bit, that you want to name it Yin and Yang, but what does Opus and Gold actually signify?
Yeah, so that's it. Yin and Yang was we both agreed to it, and then we just decided, no, that's not. We're going back and forth on names again because we are so polar opposites, right? Like, I wanted this one, she wanted this one, and it was just back and forth and back and forth. And Opus, if you look up the definition, it's very like art and like really like a fine like metal, and it just means like higher quality, right? Golds is actually the first initial of all of mine and my sister's kids. So it's Goldie, Andrea, Liam, Dylan, and Savvy. So that's where we came up with.
Okay.
When she told me Golds and what the meaning was, I'm like, we liked Opus, so how about Opus Golds? And that's how the name stuck. And then I went one step further, and I'm like, oh, we're the OGs of the business world, of the consulting world. You know, at one point, at one day, we'll be able to call ourselves that, because I'm not that old yet. And you know, I've got a lot to learn myself still, and constantly do. But yeah, I just think it's catchy, right? The OG group, you know, like I was definitely into hip hop when I was younger and in high school, so that stuck for me.
Weren't we all? Me, I was more of a
Yeah.
Blink-182 guy. That's not to say I didn't listen to a little bit of hip hop, but I was a little bit more of that alt rocker punker kid, or at least I pretended to be. But in
There
any
you go.
case, so you're doing the coaching and consulting now, which means you had to get out of your business. So obviously you did all the right processes that was taught to you by your coach and mentor. Can you walk us through that experience of that exit and how you managed to stay sane during that time to then start this new venture?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the numbers, right, it's like 12% of businesses that want to sell actually sell. That's such a low number. And I can tell you, like, again, this is another reason why we started doing what we're doing. We will work with any business. It's not just home services. We specialize in home services, but we'll work with any business. Right now, we're working with a roofer. We're working with a water restoration company. We're working with. We've met with a couple of attorneys, which attorneys are great at law. They are horrible at marketing, sales, and operations. And you know, so it's we're not limited to just home services. We're working with a paver company. You know, we just did an on-site down with them, and they need. So I would say construction is probably our niche, right? Not just home services. Like, we can go into a construction company and really see it, but all businesses are pretty much the same. You know, it's sales, operations, and leadership. You know, so. Working, I'll tell you this, watching the on-site that we just did, watching what they're going through, and he wants to position himself for a sale. And we don't care. We'll work with people if they want to just pass it on to family, if they want to sell the company, it doesn't matter, right? We just want to get them to the highest level of where they want to be in their business. And it's interesting, right? Because a lot of owners, I mean, almost everyone that we talk to, they're just putting out fires every single day. So the importance of working with someone, I couldn't have imagined going through this process without someone that did it before me. Yeah, I tried to, at first, do it without a broker. Big mistake. Huge mistake. I couldn't imagine, if I wouldn't have had somebody that I could have asked the questions to, what the outcome would have been. Now, we got double-digit multiples, and it was, you know, fantastic. They negotiated right until the end, too, you know, and I could tell you, like, working with a broker and working with a mentor, someone that's done this before, were the key points. You know, if I wouldn't have done that, and if I wouldn't have done the work leading up to it, it would have been really painful, because it's not just, hey, I have this business for sale, come get it. They want to know everything about you, about the business, where you've been, where you're going, what your projections are. Like, I mean, they want to know, you know, my cat's name from 25 years ago. Like, they wanted to know that, you know, and it was really one of those things where it was like, I could make a phone call at any given moment and be like, hey, why are they asking this? You know, but more importantly, because I was working with the mentor all along before I decided to go to market. He was helping me put in the things in place where I wasn't the business, right? The year that I sold, right? So last winter, I went snowmobiling for 52 days. I wasn't in the business. And that's what these companies that want to buy businesses, they want to see that. The fact that I wasn't there was a good thing, and everything was handled and it was growing. I thought all along I had to do everything, right? And I had to have my hands in everything. It wasn't until I put the systems and processes in place and I stepped back did I propel forward. I gave the opportunity to my teams to make mistakes and learn, but they excelled when I stopped micromanaging. So to really answer that question was like, man, I couldn't imagine doing it without it. And I am watching someone who was just about to go into this process by himself and was getting really not some great advice. You know, that's the other thing too, is like, there's a lot of sharks in this world. You know, if you've ever watched Shark Tank, that shit's real in real life, you know? So like, don't always just think that the shiny object is the best shiny object. I had to do my research and do my diligence through the whole process myself too. But again, I couldn't imagine doing that alone. Would have been, I mean, there was already sleepless nights and, you know, wondering what if this or what if that. But I felt very certain that if I had a question, I made a phone call, and then it was like, I went from here to okay, and a little bit more confidence stepping in the room. And it was an amazing process. Like, I don't have any regrets through that process at all. I look back, and I don't look back and say, oh, I could have gotten more, or I could have done this, or I could have done that. I knew every step of the way what I was getting into and what the outcomes could have been. I was told not to take the offer that I took. I could have gotten more. And I said, no, that's not it. I took the offer that I had because that's the one that I was educated on and felt was the best fit.
Yeah. No, great advice there. In the fact that you stayed in your lane, you did what you knew what to do and got the help that you needed when you needed the help, and then learn from it, because that learning along the journey, you are now able to kind of teach and instruct that to your clients there. So when it comes to what you're seeing now, you're on the outside looking in onto a lot of these companies. What shifts have you observed in the strategies over these years when it comes to marketing, especially when it comes to marketing for service businesses?
That's an interesting question, because, you know, and I do have 3 home service companies that we're working with right now as well. So that question comes up a lot. I can tell you this: the shift that I'm experiencing right now is, you know, Google My Business, LSA, that is not working like it used to. Okay. Where I could go and spend a little bit more money because I hired a guy, it would work out for me. That's not the case anymore. Even though I wasn't converting and all that stuff, it's not the case anymore. You have to be so dialed in. But again, there's a lot more competition there. Like, when I started doing it, it was mostly the bigger companies that were doing it. Right now, you can start a business and have a Google My Business and an LSA in a couple weeks, and now, you know, you're one of thousands on there. So that's one big shift, right? Where, you know, you look at Google's the yellow pages per se, right? But now I think we're experiencing a shift there too. Now, Google's not going to go away, but I do feel it's not having the impact it had a few years ago. And across the nation, people, home service companies' numbers are down, and it proves it out, right? So what other things are out there? I can tell you this, like, don't go away from the roots. Don't, you never want to be a slave to, or just have one, right? Like
Mhm.
I called myself, I didn't want to be a slave to Google, right? Like I didn't want to depend on Google to make the phone ring. So don't go away from the low hanging fruit or the basics or the stuff that got you to that next level, right? Like that's where I feel a lot of companies go wrong is, still do the yard signs, the door hangers, the word of mouth, the community events, do all that stuff. And right now, I think do it more, because that I think is having a bigger impact. Another one to that is Outbound. I feel I had 5 Outbounders. And if you're on Service Titan, which some people love, some people hate, there's a tab that says missed revenue. And that's one of the reports I used to look at. And it used to light me up. And I realized one year I missed I think it was like $2.8 million in missed revenue. And that's when I implemented Outbound. And it took a while to get it to kick off. And there are some great tools out there that you don't even have to build it internally anymore. You can do it differently. But Outbound was huge. So that next year we grew in sales, and that missed revenue number, shrunk significantly, almost by half. And that was a game changer for us. We captured over 1.2 million just in outbound follow-ups. That first year we launched an outbound department. At the end of when we exited, I had 5 outbounders. I wanted 10. I wanted more outbounders than I had CSRs. Because I feel it's such a need. And it's not just on the estimates that you just did last week or a month ago. Go back through your database. Call the people that haven't used you for 12 months or 18 months and just have a conversation. Let them know you're still around and thinking about them. There's so much power in that connection. A lot of companies, they just don't know how to get started with it. And they try to take their CSRs and, while you're not answering calls, make some outbound. 2 different people.
No.
2 different people. And that's where I made that mistake myself. I tried to do that myself and it didn't work. And I quickly realized, okay, this is a totally different person that I'm asking to do this job. So that was probably the biggest one. The one that I feel is going right now is all these influencers, and I think there are some people that are doing, some TikTok that's working really well. I see a bunch of companies doing YouTube that's working really well. But these influencers and these micro influencers are, I think, it's the start of the trend. And especially in the home service world, there's not a lot of it yet, but it's coming.
Yeah, influence marketing has been huge these past couple years. Keeping my ear to the ground with it. I've seen a lot more articles kind of talking about it and proposing that a lot of companies do it, but you're absolutely right. I've not seen it in the home service niche, and me looking at it, I wouldn't think of an influencer promoting a plumber. But then again, it depends on who the influencer is. If maybe it's a local sports hero or something like that, could be the one as the mascot to the brand, or something like that. But your average person that is promoting, an energy drink, now they're promoting a plumbing business. That just seems odd to me in that sense. And for the Google deal that you mentioned in the beginning, 100% agree with you that Google Business Profile, when it changed from Google My Business, has completely changed and disrupted the entire market. Marketing on there, you're walking on eggshells. It's become super difficult to get your business verified now. In fact, I had a small window install company. 3 weeks it took to get the business verified because they wanted a video, and he works out of his home. So it's not it's pain in the butt. But it's a necessary evil to be on there. One other thing that you mentioned with regards to the outbound. Now, when it comes to B2C, there are some rules there when it goes to outbound marketing. But I like how you brought it into the outbound of your past clients, because you're absolutely allowed to call them up because they're already on your list. You've already interacted with them. You have that relationship in place. Talk a little bit about cold outbound. What kind of things did you do in that aspect? Because you can't really cold email because that's against the rules. Cold calling, it gets a little bit of gray area there.
Yeah. So, and great point. Thanks for bringing it up. We didn't do any cold outbounding.
Okay.
There is companies out there that can do it with the roofing sector. They do it after storms, and that is successful, and they follow the regulations. But yeah, you gotta, whatever you're doing with outbound, text, email, make sure you're compliant. I had a huge issue with that. There's a company that does voice shots that puts those voicemails into your phone, and your phone doesn't ring. Make sure you're compliant. Make sure you follow all the rules there, and ask, like, triple read that contract. But to your point, no, there was not. We were not doing cold outbounding. Now, I can tell you this: there are people out there that are doing it. Again, I don't know much about it. All I say is do your homework, check with 2 or 3 different attorneys, and make sure you're compliant, because you will get into trouble.
They are. FCC will hammer you.
Yeah, they have. What I've heard is they're doing it is they are working with charities, and they are giving a percentage of, let's say, a tune-up or their offer to the charities. So, like, if I called you today, I would say, hey, this is Chuck with All Hours Plumbing. We are doing a tune-up this month for Valentine's Day, and we're going to support St. Jude's Hospital. Any tune-up that's done in the month of February, we're going to give $10 off of our $29 tune-up for this month. Would you like to go ahead and sign up with it for today? I've heard people have success with that. I've heard that there is ways around it, but I don't know it.
Gotcha. Great advice there. Definitely mind your P's and Q's and get with somebody smarter than you that knows the ins and outs of it. And always consult your lawyer. And if you don't have one, get one. What is it? What's the app? It's not LegalZoom. Legal Shield. I'm not selling Legal Shield. I have used Legal Shield. It's a very, very small subscription. It's like $100 a month. You get a lawyer in your back pocket, and they will take care of you, write up whatever you need to write up, and do the research for you. And it will save your business. So, again, I'm not an affiliate for it or anything. I just know it because I've used it. So, when it comes to the clients that you are looking to work with and actually, kind of partner with, what do you look for to kind of get started with them and understand this is going to be a good outcome?
Yeah. So we'll talk with anybody. We offer a free information session. You can go to our website, opusgolds.com. That's opusgolds.com. Sign up for a free information session with us. We'll tell you what we do, and then we'll learn a little bit about more about what you do. To answer that, I mean, ideally, our ideal client is, because, in business, you have to have that, right? Like, you have to have your target audience. Our ideal client is anyone between 2 and 10 million. After you hit 2 million, you got some things figured out, but you may not know what the next step is. And we can really help accelerate there. Doesn't mean that we won't work with startups. I'm working with a startup right now. The guy's first year in business, and he's having exceptional growth because he's brought us on. I like the startups because my story of doing it with no systems and processes for 9 years, man, if I would have started this in the beginning, holy cow, where I would have been 12 years later, you know? So I do like the startup. So it's like, we'll talk to any business to see if it's a fit. Does that mean that we'll just work with any business? No. We actually told someone today, like, hey, here's what we recommend. They said, oh, well, is that like, maybe it's a lower tier that will go. And I said, no, it's not about, you need this level. If you don't want to sign up for that level and commit for it, it's not going to work. I'm not just going to take your money and not give you results. You know, like I got to prove my results to you. So it's really that specifically. We told them no. And it's, you know, it's not about the money. Like, I don't have to work anymore, man. Like, I really don't. I did really well. And I'm not saying that to brag. It's true.
Yeah.
And I do it because the passion behind it, you know, and I don't want to see other people go through what I went through for 9 years. People are starting to wake up. And look, there's a lot of people out there that talk about how great they are and they've done this, they've done that. That's fine. When I'm looking for a mentor, I don't want to hear about what you've done. I want to hear about what went wrong, right? What happened, like firing your dad, laying your dad off, losing money 3 years before you exit and turn it around. I want to hear the pain points when I'm looking for a mentor. I don't care about how great you are. I want to find someone that has had similar pain points to me and knows how to navigate through them. I think that's where a lot of these gurus are missing it, right? It's like, tell me about what went wrong, you know? And quite frankly, we're not a fit for everybody, you know, and that's okay, right? But there are a lot of right fit people out there for us. And again, we're happy to talk to anybody at any time, just to tell you guys what we're all about and see if it would be a fit. The other thing that I can say is, if we're not a fit, find someone, but find the right one, right? Don't just go and find someone that your friend told you to find. Do your research. Like, if it's not me, interview a couple, right? Make sure that your values align and that they have done the things that you want to do. If it's systems and processes and I haven't done it, I'm not a right fit for you. If it's cold calling outbound that you want to do, I haven't done it. I may not be a right fit for you. I can research it and give you my opinion on it, but if that's the specific area you want to go in, I'm not the coach for you. There's other ones out there that have done it. So that's really what I say when you're looking for a mentor or for a coach. Really make sure your values are aligned. You know, like there's a lot of guys out there that will be really pushy on sales. My guys weren't selling anything. They were educating and doing the best job for the client. Like, we sent flowers and chocolate to people after jobs, thanking them. Like, we did business with integrity. And that's the type of people that we want to work with.
Awesome. And congratulations again on, you know, the big exit and the fact that you don't have to work anymore. Because I think that's pretty much the ultimate goal for anybody that gets into business is, you know, they don't want to work, you know, a job all their lives. I mean, that's the reason why they quit working for other people, right? But then they get stuck into that deal of trading one job for another, right? They're their own boss, but that's what they are. They're their own boss without, you know, having anybody to help them out. So again, congratulations with that. I hope to get there one day. When I grow up, I want to be just like you. Okay. So,
you know, and I want to bring one point, because I heard you say something there. You started a business. You didn't start a job. Don't work at it like it's a job. Work on it like it's a business.
Right. Absolutely. And I think that my next phase for what I'm doing, I currently do, marketing as a freelancer in the sense of helping people get set up properly online. That Google business profile, the business listings, a proper website, it's all hooked up, analytics, those online systems and processes in place. But I know what I need personally. I need a sales team. I mean, that's my next step to do that outbound deal. Because I know once the outbound starts, I've already set my own foundation up. You can find me anywhere and everywhere if you Google my name and business now once it's out there. So, that legwork was done, and it took, I don't know, 3 years to set that up, to actually start ranking for anything. So it takes time, effort, and energy. And without the person, as you mentioned, that has been there and done that, to help you out to do it, it's going to take you even longer. My philosophy is you can pay once and have it done right by somebody that's done it, or you can pay twice for somebody to come in and fix everything. So, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I'll tell you. So I shared about my first experience with SEO. That's the guy that I really got involved with, right? But I had two before him that just took my money and didn't do anything. I was
Hmm.
blessed with. I mean, I had one guy shut my website off. And as I was transitioning from him to the guy at the bagel shop, right? Like he shut it down, and I had no recourse to go after him for it. So I really, again, going back to, especially with marketing, like, do it with, I'm not going to hire a marketing company to do an apparel brand for me, and they specialize in auto mechanics.
Yeah,
Go,
that makes
I,
sense.
I go with somebody that has a track record, right? That has done it before. It's all similar when it comes to that, but the guy that's specializing in home service or whatever niche it is, they're going to know a few more things than the guy that's trying to spread himself out too thin over a bunch of different areas. It's just,
Hmm.
it's just kind of the way it is, right? Like, I mean, yeah, sure. I knew plumbing, drain cleaning, boilers. I brought on HVAC, but I didn't run that division because I didn't know it, right? So,
Hmm.
it's one of those things. I think with anything I don't think, I know with anything you do, you just really gotta vet it and look at the history. Like, I don't want to just read your reviews. Show me results, right? If I'm looking at a marketing company today, which I am, um, I want to know who you've worked with, some success stories. Now that comes with a price. The guys that have success, they're going to charge more. But I would rather
Hmm.
take that chance of having more success than not, right? I got really lucky with the guy that was just starting out. His values and my values aligned, and
Hmm.
he was very he had a lot of integrity. He never would have done me wrong, right? um that was great, and I got really lucky there. I also got lucky that he was honest with me and said, hey, I've got you to this point, I can't take you any further. There's not a lot of companies that will say that to you. They'll just keep cashing your check, so I would just say, look, really, really do your due diligence on it, and proven results are always great in my book.
Awesome. Yep. I finally got a decent case study. I've been working with a remodeler out in California for about a year, on a SEO and very, very small display campaign. And I had my annual review with him, um, kind of one to one. He's like, "Man, I'm not seeing anything," and I was like, "But I don't know what you're talking about. I saw a 35% increase in calls, just from Google alone. Now, it wasn't much comparatively because we're just working SEO and display ads. And if nobody's searching for anything, you can rank number one till the cows come home. But if nobody's looking up for services, then that's you know it doesn't work. So, um, again, I was just taken back the fact that he had not. It felt like to him he didn't see an uptick in business. So, I don't know. We're diving deep into it and getting some more uh, tactics together for the overall strategy to make something happen for this year.
Yeah, and I'll add one more to that. Don't go into SEO and digital marketing with the idea of an instant return. It's a long game
Absolutely.
strategy. I mean, my website
Hmm.
alone was worth $2 to $3 million. So like hang on. What you're putting in isn't just draining, right? It can take some time. It can take, some guys say 3 to 6 months. Most guys say 12 to 18 months. That's where you should really start to see some traction there. But
Hmm.
ultimately, stay in good communication, right? Like I know you with that client, you're talking to them all the time. My thing is this is I want to meet with my marketing agency at least once a month at first for the first 6 months biweekly. And we're strategizing because your clients need to give you the feedback so you know what's working and what's not working. You can see so much on the back end, but there's other things that you guys have to figure out too, like the conversion, like the client journey in the home, all the things, right? It's not
Hmm.
just, hey, the calls are coming in. So I think a really good open line of communication is key, right? Like I don't want for me, this is just me. This is how I operate. I do a lot of text messages. So if I can't text my marketing person, account manager, or company, that's a no-go for me. And I tell that on onboarding process. If I have to go into your calendar and book out for 3 weeks at, like that's not going to work for me because I come being that visionary and that ADD entrepreneur, I come up with things on the fly and I want to get, hey, is this a good idea? Or I want to get it off my brain and out to you so you can start thinking about it. That's just what works for me. You got to find what works for you, but I really do feel the open line of communication is super key. A lot of people think I'm just going to hire an agency and I'm going to talk to him once, and then I'm not going to talk to him again until things are bad. That doesn't work. You got to talk when things are
Hmm.
good. You got to talk constantly, right? Like, don't just set. There is no set it and forget it.
Totally agree. Totally agree.
Yep.
Um, the one caveat to that would be for anybody that you work with, if the spend isn't enough though, you just got to be careful with who you actually work with or is going to be willing to work for you. If you're $500,000 a month, most of the tactics are going to be a set and forget type deal. You'll get some reporting in, but the hours just aren't there for that agency to make sense to um, uh, I wouldn't say put the time in. Obviously, they still want your business and they're going to do everything they can for the last dollar. But your commitment to your business shows their commitment to you. So if you're willing to invest in your business, they're going to invest the time into you as well. Um,
One hundred
so we
percent.
talked a lot of shop tonight. We're coming up on the hour here. Um, what does Chuck like to do for fun? I
Oh
know you have
man,
all this, I wouldn't say free time now, but what are you able to do
yeah.
now that
So
you
yeah, so I snowmobile. I moved to Utah for the snow. I snowboard. I got 3 kids, 12, 6, and 3. I started an apparel company. It's mountainflow.com, mtnflo.com. I started that with my son. He's 6 years old. And I can tell you right now, like I'm mixing our adventures and talking about business, right? Like we're in the parking
mm,
lot of the ski resorts and he's passing out stickers and he's telling people, yeah, hey, check out my he calls it his t-shirt company. He's like, hey, check out my
mm,
t-shirt company. And I have these people looking at me like, how old is he whispering to me? And I'm like, he's 6. And they're like, oh, good job for you, man. Right? Like I could just imagine if my dad was teaching me business at 6 years old, where I would be right now, right? Like I had to learn it along the way. But I
mm,
really feel that schools don't teach that stuff. So I wanted my son to have that experience, and we talk about it on all of our adventures when we're hiking, backpacking, camping, fly fishing, whatever we're doing. We're talking about okay, how many clients came to the store today, and this and that. Like it's fun to mix. I love business, right? It's obviously a passion of mine. That's why I want to consult with businesses. But to do that with my son, to bring a passion of mine to our adventures is huge, right? Because it's filling my cup, as well as teaching him something that he's not going to learn. A lot of I remember my parents had a lot of closed door conversations, and they didn't want to bring work home and this and that. That's not how I raised my kids. I want them to be involved as much as they want. He stickers or he tags T-shirts for me, tags hats for us. My daughter's involved with it. She'll pack things up. My 3-year-old, she kind of just plays with the stuff and goes, "Dad, that's a cool hat." But she'll eventually get there. And when they're listening is when they we're driving down the road, and I'll share this. I know we're running out of time, but driving down the road and he sees a digital billboard and he goes, "Dad, we should get Mountain Flow on that." And I'm like, "Oh, why?" He goes, "Because a lot of people will see it." And I'm like, "Okay, buddy, well, that's called marketing, and that's really good that you're noticing these things." So yeah, a lot of fun, man. That's what I like to do for fun. I'm only 45.
That's awesome. So last question here, we'll wrap it up. You're listening here this late in the episode. We both thank you. You've gotten a lot of valuable information when it comes to running your home service business. It doesn't matter if you're a roofer, plumber, or electrician. The advice here has been absolute gold. Hence Opus and Gold, right?
Yep.
What are your future goals for the Opus and Golds Group?
Yeah, so we're gonna cap it out. We're not looking to work with thousands and the masses. We're working with select people. Right now, we're at about 10 companies. We'll probably cap it out about 50. We're gonna keep it small and quaint. We're gonna walk alongside people. We don't want it. We don't want it to go to the masses. If it's not fun and it's not producing results, then it's not worth it for us. So yeah, again, please reach out with any questions. I love answering questions. I think that's how me and you met, right? Is I was probably answering someone's question and we connected. So again, it's opusgolds.com, opusgolds.com. Reach out anytime.
Absolutely. Well, Chuck, it's been an absolute blast. Probably one of my most favorite interviews yet to date. That's not saying all my other interviews were bad, but just the simple fact that I've finally crossed that threshold and got somebody in the home service industries doing what you're doing now is going to definitely help me out a lot, help you out a lot in the sense of helping the people out that we want to help. And that's ultimately what it's all about, just helping people out. You are obviously able to help more people out because of the experience that you've had and the experience that I've had in building my own thing, knowing the digital systems and processes in place is a big help for anybody listening to this podcast there. So definitely reach out to either one of us. All the information about what we talked about is going to be in the description of this episode, so feel free to check it out. And again, we thank you for listening to the Business Growth Accelerator today. You guys take care and go sell something.
Thanks.